You're listening to Mark of the Maker. Hey everybody, I'm Mark Steiner and you're listening to Mark of the Maker. And this, believe it or not, is episode 50 of the show, which is super crazy and weird. But we actually made it. Maybe to some people's surprise and others'
chagrin.
Yeah. But here we are, episode 50. So let me get around the crew here, and we got a fun topic this time. I think you'll really enjoy this one. It'll be a fun episode, so let me get everybody introduced. You know, we know that we get new listeners all the time. I've had a comment before that it seems weird that we introduce everybody every time, but again, we get new listeners all the time. So thanks. And if you're one of the new folks that join us, let's make sure you know who's here with us. I introduced myself already. We have Mr. Michael Burch.
Here.
And we have Mr. Sean Kendrick.
Insert the opening to the Druid by Sleep. Here.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Mr. Tom Crine.
Hey, guys.
Listen to that. Silky. Tom Silky Crine. That's his new nickname.
Yeah.
That kind of intro. All right. So, fun episode. So I think Sean is going to explain exactly what we're going to talk about this time.
Welcome to Dr. Burch's Cabinet of Curiosities, a dark dive into the shadowy world of the esoteric, the odd, and the fantastique. Thrill at the flash of the blade, chill at the cold feel of steel, and listen at your own peril. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the sights we have to show you.
Oh, that is fucking rad. So, you know, that is Sean Kendrick. Imagine, close your eyes and imagine Sean Kendrick in a top hat and a monocle and a very excessively long cigarette holder.
Yeah, like an average Saturday night.
Right.
There was a fire crackling in the background of that.
There was, yeah. Oh, fantastic. Literally fantastic. That's what the show is this time, is fantasy.
Oh, snap.
The fantastique.
The fantastique.
Got me all excited. I feel like I didn't prepare enough.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how yours go, Tom.
Yeah.
See what kind of grade you get.
That's right. That's right. Sean is keeping score on this one. He was the most excited about this one. So
Not grading, but I am judging.
This one was a tough one for me. Fantasy is definitely out of my wheelhouse.
Tom was struggling, man. I felt like Tom was running his first half marathon, and I'm like running along next to him, or I'm not running. For me, I would be like on a scooter or a motorcycle along next to him, like, come on, Tom, you can do it, bro. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I know fantasy stuff, but I've never really been super into it, so it was a tough one.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, now that's a personal thing. I have a pretty broad definition of what I consider to be fantasy.
Oh, that's a key thing. Yeah.
See, same here. That's sort of how I looked at it. It's like, where do you put fantasy? Do you just put it on the obvious Gil Hibben type of knives with a lot of extra edges and things like that? Or is it anything that's kind of in the art world? I mean, that's kind of where I took some stuff from.
Right.
The answer is yes.
I've seen period reproductions that I consider to be fantasy pieces.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we've talked about Stenau before.
Yeah.
Jürgen Stenau. And if I don't want to put him in, the fantasy knives category because there's kind of a stigma, I think, attached to it sometimes.
Unnecessarily so.
But if you lined one of his knives up and with other ones, no one would say, oh, that one's out of place. That one's definitely not because it's out of the realm of this practical type of knife. So to me, that counts as a fantasy type knife.
Yeah.
Now, there was a ton of Stenau's that I wanted to put in here, but I didn't. Same with Kronk. Man, it was hard not to put a Kronk. But we talked so much about Kronk that I think we all sort of collectively didn't add Kronk to this.
Yeah.
Or maybe did because we didn't. I don't know what you guys picked. But
Right.
Don't speak too soon now.
Yeah, but I just was like, man, I wanted to pick that Kronk, this Kronk, the Eliminator. How could you be like,
Right.
Kind of
When
past that.
We talked about it a little bit. I think I really kind of feel like that's where fantasy started almost.
Yeah, as we know it today, what we consider
Maybe.
fantasy, I would.
Right.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe?
Burch did some digging.
Yeah. So I went, I've told you guys I'm doing the virtual schooling stuff. So, while I'm sitting in my little tiny chair on my little table, I brought down
Eating goldfish.
Knives 81 up to late 90s, the points of interest books. And I wanted to kind of start seeing, where did we start seeing the fantasy type knives? And, they hit pretty heavy in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think that was really when United Cutlery started buying up a ton of Gil Hibben stuff.
Right.
And you started seeing a ton of that stuff out there. But as far as fantasy, to me, it's almost like we took these knives from movies.
Yeah.
And I think the big impetus for all this was Conan the Barbarian, 1982. The Father Sword and the Atlantean. These were both designed, which I didn't know this, was designed by Rob Cobb, was an art designer.
Ron Cobb.
Ron Cobb?
Yes, he actually passed last week.
Really?
Oh, man.
Yeah, man, you can go down the rabbit hole on that dude. He designed, artwork for the movies that made us who we are.
A shitload of stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And they were, and most people know, we've talked about this, that Jody Sampson ground both those. He made the Father Sword all on his own, but Tim Hutchhausen, he did the engraving or all the carving, maybe the cast work on the Atlantean. But in that same year, 82, 83, Hibben was still doing kind of hunters. They were getting a little funky, but he also sold a Conqueror style sword to a movie set. They didn't say who or what, but it was also a double-sided, almost fantasy type of knife. And after that, I think these sci-fi / adventure movies really created the fantasy knife world, because I also saw a kind of crazy 1983 or 84, Bill Luckett made this super funky, called it the Star Wars survival knife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he obviously watched the first Star Wars, or second one? I'm trying to get my years together there.
Oh, there we go. Lost our Star Wars audience.
Well, yeah, and made a survival knife of it. So they're extensions of their people's imagination, which to me is fantastic, because I love old sci-fi. I love the books. I love the movies. And the fact that a lot of this stuff was built off of that is crazy to me. And to me, isn't even Aquilian Dagger sort of a fantasy if you're not doing a reproduction of a historical piece? I mean, that's...
Yeah.
Even if it's a reproduction of a historical piece, it can still have a fantasy element to it, depending on who's looking at it.
And even when you start drawing outside the lines of original buoys like Kronk, Rapp, Chaparral, Luckett, those guys started doing these kind of weird, crazy shaped, a double grind dips and curves. It really kind of, to me, even fills in some of that fantasy. So to me, I think it's more than just, the craziness of some of the awesome Gil Hibben pieces out there, because it covers a lot of bases. And I think we'd be, we have to give Kit Ray and Gil Hibben. Kit Ray's another guy that did a lot of designing back in the day. He did the Indiana Jones Kyber buoy. Did a lot of drawing, stuff like that. Steve Lickerich, he did a ton of old school fantasy stuff. And some of those are just kind of crazy, but that's what kind of built that industry.
Were you going to throw something in there, Tom?
Yeah, interesting. I did think of the Conan sword, but I didn't really think of that as the start, which when you bring it up like that, it makes 100% sense. And ironically, I was actually thinking of Tom Merringer at one point, because a lot of his swords were kind of felt fantasy, and he would name them, and
right,
came real close to adding one of his.
I thought when I was thinking about it, It seemed like it would fit, but I didn't actually choose one.
Yeah. I think it's a really good point, Michael. The movie tie makes tons of sense. But maybe if you step back even further, if you think about, not that we didn't all have some cowboy kind of stuff as a kid, right? Because I think that carried forward for a long time, but it's almost, to me, it seems like just a generic reflection of pop culture, right?
Very much.
Just like how, cowboy movies were a thing and Bonanza was on TV and, that whole kind of generation of that popular culture led to kids wearing cowboy outfits and having cap guns that look like revolvers, and you know what I mean? Then that carried for a long, long time. And so maybe this was just the next cultural wave coming through, and it resulted in this whole genre.
Oh yeah, and the Star Trek stuff hitting. He Gibbon also made that. It was a Klingon piece.
Hey!
Oh shit! Fire.
Pump the brakes, pal.
I meant to erase that. But yeah, they're just, the 90s were a lot more sci-fi as far as like even shows. Yeah,
so even TV shows.
That added to your, like you said, your pop culture type of thing. It really hit hard.
Right. Step aside Bonanza, bring in Battlestar Galactica or whatever, right?
Exactly.
It's a thing. Yeah. Very interesting. So I think we have this, Tom struggled with it a little more, but this kind of in our head, this picture of what fantasy knives look like, right? It's actually kind of a very curious thing that, like, I told Michael when I was doing my research, I have all these nice books that we've been scooping up lately, and I wanted to go through the books and find stuff, and I ended up having time where I had a few minutes here and there to look online. So I started digging through Google, and I'm searching just different words or combinations of words in Google Images, and I ended up finding all my picks that way. And some of them are picks I would say most of them are pieces I'd never seen before, right? Until I kind of dug them up this way. But it's kind of like there were pieces that came up, and there are makers in here that I think they wouldn't consider themselves fantasy makers, right? Mm-hmm. But when I saw the pieces, I'm like, okay, that looks like a fantasy piece to me. And you could argue that a couple of them really aren't fantasy, but like you said, maybe they're more art, or some of them actually look more like sculpture than anything else. But they all have that kind of vibe, I guess, and I don't even know how else to describe it.
And if we miss out on, some of the obvious ones that you at home, let us know on Facebook what you would have picked and stuff in our Facebook group. But some of the stuff, we've talked about some pieces, and I didn't want to cover them again.
Right.
So I tried to go a little more obscure.
Yeah, so we did this one like we've done lots of other picks episodes. We don't always have a central core of what we're going to talk about, but when we want to make sure that we don't, all pick the same pieces or whatever, the guys all send me their picks, and I have my picks in there as well. And, if one of them said, okay, I picked this knife, then I can say, oh no, somebody else already picked that one, go find another one. And we didn't have a ton of that this time. There's only a couple. And part of it is because I think this definition of fantasy is so broad, right? Combined by the fact that a lot of these guys are very prolific, right? Like especially someone like Gil Hibben, right? There are literally hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of designs out there that were produced by companies and all kinds of crazy stuff. Some things that are straight out of literature or movies or whatever, that I think there was so much space that we didn't have to tread on one another. So we all have different picks, and sometimes what happens in these picks episodes is that we also kind of run away from the middle, and I think that's what Michael was trying to talk about with guys like Hibben or Kronk or some of the obvious choices. And there are a couple pieces like that are in here that, when they come up, it'll make sense to everyone, and you may even recognize them as well at home. But we kind of all ran away from the obvious, or tried to anyway, because, we've talked about a lot of them before. So.
It was tough. I wanted to do it to Braga so badly too.
Yeah. Yep.
So Sean, do you want to kind of tell us what were the categories that you set forth with this?
Oh yeah. Sean laid down the law.
It just came to me. All right. So our first category, let's roll with the esoteric / obscure. And, let's see. Let me find a good definition for esoteric, because that'll sum up what we're getting at with it.
Yeah, just for the record, I had to like Google that. I mean, I had an idea, but I wanted to be sure.
Right.
The definition is intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with a specialized knowledge or interest. You could say that about the whole knife community, but
Yeah.
we're just going to keep it toward, this end of the community for this time. So that would fall into anything, that it's obscure. Maybe not everybody's heard of it. It's flown under the radar, but it's cool.
Right.
Then secondly, we have oddities. And an oddity, man, you just look at it and you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
And then you look at it again and you're like, what the fuck?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
Great
then
definition.
For the yeah. Put that in your funkin' wagnalls. And then for the fantastique, it is what it is. It is fantasy. It elicits an emotion in you. It makes you think about places and things that have probably never existed, but you would like for them to, possibly.
Right. Sean called that one high fantasy.
High fantasy.
I didn't know what he was getting at there. I was like, all right.
Well, if
Sean.
I'm throwing it out, it's
I
high
knew
fantasy.
exactly what he was getting at. He was getting on Tom's stash is what was going on. All right.
I did
All
go
right.
back to Colorado.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
I'll be over Saturday.
I'm throwing air quotes when I say hiking. I'm going out west hiking, guys. We got to wait to record until later.
Yeah, we did go hiking, but that stuff works better than Tylenol. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm 100% confident there was like a crying version of Smokey and the Bandit with like a semi truck hauling back from Colorado, escorted by a fucking Subaru in this case, probably. But
Did you even go to Colorado, or did you just sit in your chair and make this all up? Edible riddled mind.
I've been to Colorado twice in like the last 6 weeks or so.
not by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Good time.
You know we love you, buddy.
So who wants to go first?
So which category? You want to do them in order? Esoteric, do that one first?
Yeah, let's do that one first.
All right. All right. It was Michael's idea for this episode. We should say
Was
that.
it?
I think so.
Yeah, you came up with the Fantasy Island bit.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Look at
Sean took the
Sean
ball
jumped
and ran
on
it to the house.
Yeah.
Well, if it sucks, it wasn't my idea.
There you go. Hey, I'll own it.
We said it was your idea.
Too
Come
late,
on.
man.
All right, Michael, in honor of you coming up with the episode, you get to go first with esoteric choice.
All right. So, like we said, I tried to run away from stuff I've mentioned before, but this is a name I've mentioned, but I haven't mentioned this knife, Jim Kelso. And I chose his life and death knife. It is simply amazing. It's basically pattern welded steel from Fog that he textured on the, like, really heavily textured the backside for the death side, and then it's got a cathedral pattern, Damascus pattern on the life side. It's about 17 inches. It's got ebony, silver, gold, and it just sort of, if you ever seen like his art, his sculpture work, or whatever you want to call it, it very much reflects nature and life and the duality of it and stuff. So this knife has a theme to it. It's basically one side is showing life, and the other side has like holes cut into it with a demon in it that shows the texture blade on the other side. So it's just sort of a very unique, interesting piece that's both beautiful and odd for me because it's not symmetrical, but it has a theme and an idea, and just one of those things that just kind of grabs you.
Yeah, and I remember the first time I saw this knife in Blade magazine, and it's one that grabs your attention.
There, I'm sending it to you in the group there. I should have sent it first.
Fantastic piece.
But it's not just the theme of it and it's the look of it overall. It's a gorgeous lines, and it's very much him and his. I think you see it in a lot of the stuff he does.
Yeah, it's a really cool piece.
So I had to pick that one.
Yeah. It's a really good example of that crossover. Is it art? Is it fantasy? This is definitely one, in my opinion, that's both, right? Because like you said, it elicits this thought kind of thing going along with it where if you kind of pay attention to what it's trying to tell you, it tells a story right in
Yes.
the piece itself.
Yeah, and you could absolutely, in my head, it's like if you could see that in like a movie or something that had, that you 100% you could see that in there. Is it art? Absolutely. All of that. But it was a piece I had to pick.
Yeah, man, it may be art, but it still leads me to make up a little story in my head that goes along with it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we forgot to tell people this is definitely one they're going to want to Google as we go, and we'll share pictures in the group and stuff. I don't know that we're always the best about that, but we try, and so we'll try to share these with you in the group as well once the episode publishes, and maybe save you a little time because some of these I think, Michael did most of his research on the book side. I did mine online, so I had pictures that I can share with the guys as we go. But with the books, there's a bunch of pieces out there that they're not. You can't find them online, right? So
this was an online find, and I was trying to find a better picture of it, which I just, and maybe someone can find one better than me, but I couldn't, which like I said, it's kind of a shame.
Sean, what kind of time frame do you think that was in Blade? Do you remember?
It was very early on, so I'm guessing 96, 97, 98 at the latest.
Okay.
Well, and you kind of wonder where these pieces are.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very much.
In a safe.
Right. Right, in a deep, dark hole somewhere.
Yep. I'm sure whoever has them would be happy to show them to you and share them with you if you knew where they were.
Yeah.
Cool pick.
Yeah, that is a really cool one.
Man, I had forgot about that knife, and that's a blast from the past. Such a cool
as soon as
piece.
I saw it.
That's one I would like to really see with my hands and not just my eyes, because there's a lot going on there.
Very much. That's one it's stuck with me for a long time. One of those that just doesn't go away.
And man, is that feather Damascus?
It looks like it.
Yeah. It's like a feathery, but he'd call it cathedral.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, and the backside is totally different.
Yeah, heavily textured, and it's just kind of eating out the ebony. He used a lot of ebony. I must have been a fan of that.
Oh, okay. So it's two different steels that must be laminated together.
It's got it.
Because it says high texture on one side and cathedral pattern on the other side. But
I think he just textured it and left it forged on the back.
Yeah.
Maybe so. Like you said, Sean, it has a very distinct feather-ish pattern, right? Or almost like from an arrow, right?
Or a fancy plate where they put the sauce on there and then pull down the middle and strap it at the side.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, it looks like the fittings, like one side is, what is on the one side? Is it
one side has a demon and the other side has a orchid.
Sorry about the train.
is that what's in the inlay on the light side or life side of the handle? Is that an orchid?
That's an opal. The inlay's an opal, but the sort of guard / I don't know what you want to call it. One
handle
side is
transition
orchid.
area.
Yeah.
A bolster.
Yeah, like a bolster is an orchid, then a demon on the backside.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, neat stuff, man.
Solid pick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Tom, I know this was a struggle for you, buddy, but you want to take a swing at esoteric? This is a late call for Tom.
Yeah, sure. And like Mark said, this was a tough one. I picked one, and it's one we had talked about a little bit, the Cressada, and then I came up with some other stuff, and then I just didn't really feel right. And it's interesting, when Michael talked about the history from movies and stuff. But this is the knife that kind of popped in my head, is the Chris knife from Dune.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's made from a worm's tooth and had a lot of inside knowledge.
Absolutely. Now, dude, as a Dune head, I'm sold. Loving your pick.
So, it's the knife of the Freeman. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, more than kind of cool, man. It's bitchin' cool. And the prop they used in the David Lynch movie was pretty fucking cool. How many times can I say cool in a row?
One more time.
Cool.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask. Is there one out there? And obviously there is because of the movie. And there's another movie coming as well, right?
And all the cutlery I've seen from it looks
pretty
cool
good.
as hell. Cool.
Yeah.
I am excited.
Hopefully they did it right this time, and it looks like they did.
The guy that did Blade Runner 2049 did it,
Yeah. Dude,
Very excited.
I don't know about you guys. I love Dune. Every book after that is in the series. They just kind of start getting pretty weird. I don't think I've ever made it through the third book.
Oh, man, my favorite book is the fourth. No shit, you need to plow through those. Get through the second and third or just skip them and start reading at the fourth, man. It picks up steam in a way you could not imagine.
Oh, that's cool because I've literally never made it past the third book.
And the fourth is awesome. It introduces one of the coolest characters from the series, a dude named Miles Tegg, and he's just a hardcore badass.
Oh, I might have to try again.
So this one is, when Tom sent the picture, I actually saw this as well. It says it is curved and double-edged like a Kindle. Didn't we talk about a Kindle in the ethnic knives episode?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. When I saw the picture, my first thought was of the Skagel Chris. It has that little kind of wiggle to it.
Kind of cool if someone saw it that wasn't, a Freeman. They were supposed to die. You cleansed your knife in them or whatever. It's kind of cool in the story.
Yeah.
Took their body water.
Yeah.
All right. So straight out of literature. And really movie, right? In the end, because that's how it turned into a real knife. Is although I have to wonder if there aren't makers out there who have made their interpretation of this.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, if you Google it, there's quite a few custom. I don't know if they're actually steel knives, but people have made props and stuff.
Yeah.
I have to give credit where credit is due. This one had me stumped, and I was talking to Chris Moeller, and he mentioned it, and I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That it is.
All right. Sean, you want to talk about your esoteric pick is cool, man. Why don't you talk about that?
Man, we're kind of messing with my esoteric pick on the fly.
Ooh.
It's still the same maker. We're going to be talking about Mr. Paul Fox. Mm-hmm. And originally, I intended to talk about his electric motor opening knife. Because though it's very high-tech and very functional, there is a fantasy element to it as far as I'm concerned.
Michael picked that one too.
I cannot believe
I had to send him back to the well.
But
when he said that, I was like, somebody else picked this knife that probably most people never heard of.
Well, I mean, look at the company you're keeping, man. I mean,
it was wild.
Birds of a feather and whatnot. So, man, I really couldn't find any pictures of the knife online. Couldn't find any information about it. I reached out to our good friend K.L. Bird. Bird couldn't find me a picture of the electric motorized knife. He did have some info on it, how basically it had a miniaturized servo motor, and you had one button to open it and one button to close it, kind of like a garage door opener.
Right.
And it opened and closed itself. But then Bird also sent me along some pictures I had forgot about, and they were of Mr. Fox's fantasy pieces. And there is one called The Scorpion. When I saw this piece, I was like, wow, this could have been my high fantasy piece, but we've already got Paul Fox on here, so I'm going to lump this in with it.
Yeah.
And this is just a spectacular knife. I'll have to post pictures of it in the group if anybody's interested in seeing it, because once again, I couldn't find too much using Google. And usually I can find most whatever I'm looking for if it's out there. But the knife it's different. The blade is actually two blades, but it's all from the same piece of steel. There's a curved, shorter upper blade and a longer, kind of hooked, recurvy, upswept lower blade. The guard is, I'm guessing that's brass, a thin brass guard backed up to, I would have to guess, an ebony handle that's been carved to come off like horn, and then capped with a brass butt cap.
Man, how do you even grind that thing?
Real careful.
Files, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah. To get into that inner notch,
yeah,
that's the only thing I can figure. I don't...
It's like circular.
Yeah.
I wonder when that was made.
Hold on just a second, and I believe I can tell you, because once again, our friend Mr. Bird is thorough.
Bird comes through in a pinch, no doubt.
Oh, dude, he's a fucking prime time player.
This thing is definitely I mean, it certainly elicits the scorpion thing, right? It's got the stinger in the tail. Like there's a little, I don't even know what you'd call that. Like a little blade, little hooked blade at the tail. So like the tail of the scorpion stinger, the plates on the body of the scorpion, right, is what the handle looks like to me. And then, some nasty pincher nastiness up front.
All right, so he pulled a picture from a book. It's on page 58 of whatever the book it is, but it says, Scorpion is the title of this piece by Paul Fox. Blades are 10 inches of Sheffield blued steel with polished edges and a bronze guard. The ebony handle was carved by the maker. The design is by Paul Ehlers. Paul Ehlers, now there's a fantasy name for you.
Yeah, very cool.
So, yeah, just a fantastic knife. Once again, I will share the pictures I have in the group because it's a stunner.
Now, on that, do you mind if I talk about that electric one a little bit?
No, please, let's cover both.
Burch got sad.
It had
Do
to be
you have
covered.
info?
Yeah, it was made in 1984. It was shown at the Guild Show in Kansas City where it won the Most Innovative Knife of the Year. It used a 8,000 RPM motor with a 400-to-1 ratio gearbox, and it used basically a CR20 something, basically your car battery, your remote start thing.
Yeah.
And it was basically, says it was held in place and rotates between 2 ball bearings. You can check it out. I'll send you guys a picture here, but you can check it out in the Great Collections Darren book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you said that was picked, I was like, you've got to be shitting me. It was just, it blew my mind.
Some knives stick with you, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. Well, that thing is cool. Oh, wow. So at glance, it makes it look like it's a flipper when it's closed or something, but.
Yeah, he was big on that top part, the Paul Fox. I mean, it looks like a Paul Fox folder.
Yeah.
He's big on having that kind of guards.
Huh.
Yeah, the guard on top is kind of strange.
Yeah, it's funky. 3CR2032 batteries. So those are the little, like about the size of a nickel, kind of like watch battery looking things.
Yeah.
Which they'd have to be to fit in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wonder why the guard on top and not the bottom.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that was just about got to be some rhyme and reason, and I'm guessing it's how the motors fit in there. I mean,
but
there's
his
a
other
fucking
knives were
gearbox
the
in
same
there, man.
way. Like
I'm sure there was an opening mechanism he had on them.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. I mean, those were very much open that way.
With the guard?
Yeah. I don't think Paul Fox gets enough credit for some of his early works and opening mechanisms. They were very tactical before tactical was a thing.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah, it's almost, I think, Tom, like it would work almost like a front flipper, right? Like a wrapped around front flipper. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, that shape is certainly a, what it reminds me of is a Carson. Maybe it's the little funky holes, but you know what I mean? It's got that Carson vibe.
I can definitely see that.
Huh, really cool. Yeah, the electric motor opener was a popular pick.
Do you have this that book?
No.
Mark, do you have that one, the Great Collections book?
I think so.
All right, dig through that. The same guy that has that one has a bunch of early Walkers. He has the early Bob Hayes, which is credited to the first flippers.
Yeah.
Whoever that guy is, great collection.
Wow.
And great idea for a book too, by the way.
Yes.
Now, we'll get together and put together some Paul Fox information in the Facebook group because I've got stuff here from Bird that deserves to be shared.
Yes. Yeah, I think at some point he deserves his own podcast.
Oh yeah. Where would we start?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So we've talked
about... have to be redactions.
Where would we end?
I think we're going to end up doing that. We've talked about how to do that where we have episodes where we talk about makers where in some cases there's just it's hard to come up with a lot of info, hard to come up with a whole episode worth of info. So I think what we're going to do is maybe pick some makers and kind of group them together and have like episodes where they're kind of a bunch of minisodes all tacked into one, focusing on a group of makers, because some of these guys, there's just not a ton of info out there.
It's not that they're not important. It's just that, they're just not. I mean, as far as I know, there's not a ton on Paul Fox, but there's a ton of pictures of beautiful knives he's done, and that needs to be shared and passed around.
Right. Well, we've talked about that before as being one of the purposes of the show is to help keep some of that stuff alive if we can.
Pass the nerd on.
Pass the nerd on. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. What were we talking about? Because I forgot.
Esoteric.
Oh, yeah.
Esoteric pick. All right. So I'm the last one. So I'll do esoteric pick. And mine is a knife called the Martian trench knife.
Martian trench knife.
Yeah. By Gay Rocher.
Oh.
And I think you could argue that this isn't fantasy. This is one like I kind of alluded to earlier when I said sculpture, because this to me looks like some rad Euro sculpture piece. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
But I think it fits the fantasy vibe very well because it has that thing where there has to be a story, right, that goes along with this kind of shape. It's almost like I don't know. It has a trench kind of vibe because there's a handle and there's a blade, but the blade is offset to the handle. So it almost looks like an ice skate, would be a very simplified definition of it. But it also looks like this thing would be incredibly comfortable in the hand.
Yeah. I was pretty close to picking a Gay Rocher knife.
Yeah.
He makes a knife called the Skate.
That was actually my backup pick for esoteric was the Skate.
Really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool, right? It's like, and it's one piece. It's all integral. So, I sent you guys that picture. If you blow it up, I'm almost sure that says 1976 on it.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't it? That could be a serial number or something, but I don't know.
Oh, it does say 1976 for sure.
So I don't know, man. But interesting piece and not something I had seen until we started researching this thing. I'll send you my backup pick. My backup pick was the one that Tom mentioned, same maker, called the Skate. It's got color to it like it's tie.
Yeah, I think it's probably just steel that's been heat colored.
Yeah, that's right. And the link Sean sent, blued carbon steel. That's actually available, which is wild. Blued carbon steel. And that one has like a Star Trek Enterprise kind of spaceship look to it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also in that trench kind of style or ringed thing, but where the blade is actually on a different plane than the handle.
Now,
so I'm on Arizona Custom Knives.
Yeah.
And looking at these, and like you said, the Skate's available. But I sent you a link. Click on, he's got a gents folder. Did you scroll over that and look at the mechanism?
Yes, I saw that one when I was researching these.
What the heck?
Yeah. Yeah, crazy looking. It's like a linkage opener kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
What's kind of wild is a piece that I almost picked was a Scott Shoemaker Thrasher.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for the image now. It's almost the same idea, like a handle above, and it looks like a skate. It really does.
Yeah.
Let me see. And of course, I can't find it for shit now. It's on page 98 of Points of Interest 4.
Okay.
But kind of a crazy piece. And looking through there, he didn't make a bunch of other funky stuff. Like this was, it seemed to me, like the Gay Rocher guy, he made quite a few kind of weird and funky kind of pieces. And for what I can find on the Shoemaker guy, this seems sort of a standalone sort of piece. And I could be wrong. But very interesting.
It's interesting if, we have a lot of books that most people don't. And if you don't have these books, you can't Google this stuff. It's not on there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have the hard copy, you don't get to see it.
Yeah, Google's basically telling me to piss off right now.
Yeah.
So sorry, but I'm taking a picture to send to my book to send to my friends.
That's what friends are for.
You know, it's really funny, Tom, because when I was trying to describe for folks that are listening that Martian trench knife, ice skate was what came to mind. I hadn't thought of ice skate prior to that. And then, there is one called the skate. And I'm like, shit, that's why it was called the skate, because it looks like a damn ice skate. How did I not understand that when I saved it?
And I love the fishtail handle on the Martian trench knife.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
It is so cool.
And he dished it out back inside there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just, the handle is so sculptural.
It definitely looks like one where he carved it to fit his hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of sanding.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did they even have really Dremels in 1976? So, I mean, you'd have a lot of hand filing.
I don't know. Did they have Fordhams, I think? Maybe?
I don't know. I'm guessing they didn't have carbide tooling, that's for sure. For a Dremel. I don't know.
Definitely funky for the times.
Yeah, so I guess he passed. I don't know what year. I think the skate, didn't it say it was made in, seems like it was not that long ago. It's on Nordic Knives, right? Is where I saw it.
Yeah, I actually had that open and just closed it out.
Yeah, made in 2014. But I'm pretty sure he passed in, it must not have been terribly long after that. There's a old blade form post out there where one was for sale, and the seller says, I probably have the most information and details on the late and superb knife maker Guy Rocher that exists, and perhaps the most pieces made by him. I guess the guy's father was way into his knives and was a big collector. Not around anymore, unfortunately, but definitely
that's too bad.
Pretty radical pieces.
I just Googled Dremel, and it was invented in 1932. So
what?
I have to take that back.
Wow. As a die grinding tool, probably, right?
Yeah, probably.
Most likely.
Yeah, check that out. So, Michael, this picture that you sent to us, that's another one that looks like a skate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One I came pretty close to picking.
Yeah.
It looks like a French curve.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it does. You could draft with it.
Absolutely. Virgil England. Yeah, there's a name that.
I didn't pick any Virgil Englands. That was another tough one, man.
Another obvious choice, right? That it's kind of like, do you pick or not? We do have one in here, so we'll get to that.
It wasn't that obvious.
Well, I mean, I'm glad somebody did. Cause
we're not going to say who it was, but there is one in here.
I just passed by him going, just clenching my teeth.
Too funny.
Damn it.
All right, so those are our esoteric picks, and a bunch of different kind of esoteric, right? The Tom pick is like, to Sean's definition, the definition Sean talked about. Okay, that knife only makes sense in the context of Dune, right?
Yes.
These Guy Rocher knives, like when you look at them, you wouldn't think of them as a knife, really, right? They look like some kind of crazy surgical apparatus or something.
Yeah.
Life and Death dagger, right? Definitely has a story to it. So yeah, all very cool. All right, so Michael, let's go to the oddity category. These are going to be really, really fun. There's some kooky stuff in here.
I've got one and a backup.
All right.
This one I came across. I'm pretty excited for you guys to see it.
Oh, wait.
What?
Let's go back, because we had bonus picks in here too. In some cases, we had bonus picks. So I talked about the Guy Rocher knives, the Martian trench knife, and the skate. And then the funny thing is, Burch and I both picked this. You remember what this one was, Michael, when we talked?
Yeah, the Dr. Carter trench knife.
Fred Carter integral trench knife.
Well, it's another one that was like, what?
Yes.
Someone picked it too, or you picked it too. It was like, really? Of all the knives?
Yep. And this one's kind of interesting. I'll send a picture of it to the group.
That thing is cool, man.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Well, I was like, is it too military? Is it too... But I was like, man, it's got enough funk that
fantasy.
It can fit in.
Yeah. Funk is a great way to put it. And it's all one piece, which is super badass.
And dude, it works on a couple levels. I mean, you could see a soldier on the battlefields of Hyperborea with it, or you could see it in fucking deep space.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it's also just looks effective too. I mean,
Hell
have
yes.
some
Hell
weight.
yeah.
Super sweepy.
Yes.
I mean, that's legit a knife I want in my collection, and that is a very just hits a lot of the things just right for me.
Yeah, it's got like the infinity plunge.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Where it's like when you look at the main picture, it's like, wait a second, where the hell's the edge start? Right?
Well, same
Yeah.
with the top. It like just
Right.
totally goes right into the guard.
Exactly.
Now, how did you come across it? That's what I'm curious.
I think because maybe one of Sean's picks sent me off on this kind of search. And like I said, I was just putting different words into Google image search. And this one came up kind of as related to the last click, which was related to your last click, which was, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the Google rabbit hole. And that's kind of how I came across it.
Tomes of Forgotten Lore would have been a better answer.
Yes, exactly.
So both of you guys picked this, and since the other one picked it, you both said screw it. It's
It-
not odd
It was
enough.
both our second picks.
Yes.
Oh, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I was looking at Carter Quillian daggers, you know,
Yeah.
because he's made some gorgeous pieces, and I came across that on Nordic or I don't know where, and I was like, holy shit!
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to share it with my buddies.
It was on Knife Purveyor.
Yeah,
Yep.
Wow, that's really cool.
It is a super, super cool piece.
Yeah,
So-
sleek.
Yeah, so that was my my third backup pick in esoteric. But I know Michael picked the same one as a backup pick. Anybody else have an esoteric backup pick? I know Tom
I
did.
kind of did my backup
Do
pick
what?
with my primary pick on the same guy.
That's right. You did. I said I know Tom didn't have a backup pick on esoteric.
No. I mean the ones you shot down.
I barely. Other than the
than
ones you
those.
told me I couldn't use.
Yeah, just those.
Oh man, so mean. All right, so I'm sorry I gave you a false start on Oddity, Michael, but I knew there was another knife I wanted to talk about, and it was that Fred Carter Integral Trench, straight out of space, baby. That's what I see when I look at it. Some kind of future time traveling dude with a problem. Okay,
I'm pretty excited for you guys to check this one out too.
yeah, I didn't actually look it up. You sent it to me, and I'm like, well, that sounds interesting, but I didn't pull up a picture of it.
Yeah, and I don't know if the name is translated poorly. It's a Swedish maker, Andre Anderson. A lot of his knives are your very sort of Nordic, you know, multi-bar Damascus with curved stacked pieces. But then I came across this revolver grip gun, and it is
Revolver grip
absolutely-
knife.
What's that?
Revolver grip knife.
It's called revolver grip gun.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I think that may be a translation on the website.
Okay.
So, but basically, it's almost like 16 inches long.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me pull up. Multi-bar. It's got, and the colors of it are just fantastic. He's got this kind of carving / engraving. The depth of it is just amazing.
Which, man, I mean, all of his stuff, there's definitely a fantastic element to everything I'm seeing that has come up in my Google image search.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of very pretty stuff.
And some of the most amazing use of Damascus, just wow.
Yes.
And then everything's a very consistent package. I mean, there's no afterthought on the sheath. The sheath is every bit as ornate and complements the knife in a most wonderful way.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. The other cool part, Sean, is it looks like he does sets of stuff sometimes too.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet, Mark?
No,
All right.
I have not.
I'm scrolling. He's got a very comprehensive website, by the way.
Okay. Did you end up
All right.
finding it on his website?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what rabbit hole I went to find him and that, but there you go. Sent your way. Yeah, I'd have no idea how I ended up there. I think I was looking at Damascus and multi-bar and stuff like that.
I mean, dude, he certainly puts the multi-bar to use.
Yes. Andre Anderson, Andersson, for the kids at home.
Dude, I don't think it was just your computer.
I think it's that
a
website.
slow
His
download for me
website's
on this end.
Wonky.
Oh, yeah. Fully engraved stainless steel handle with copper inlays, rawhide leather sheath. It's got a gun grip that looks kind of like a revolver, but it's very stylized, almost futuristic revolver. I don't know. It's funky and it's well done. All the things that kind of hit me just right.
Yeah, very, very cool.
What era was that?
Not too.
I was gonna say,
that was in
that long ago.
2013 to
2015.
2018 is the section it's in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost got like a ray gun looking thing going on.
Mhm.
Am I looking at the right one, Michael, where it's like an enclosed handle kind of thing with a little trigger hanging down?
Yep.
Yeah, very almost like steampunkish maybe or something. I don't know what to call that.
It's like Nordic steampunk.
Right. Yes.
Crazy.
You know, the wild part is it almost looks like a cut and shoot.
It does. It really does. It looks like it should,
Serve two
Yeah.
purposes. Yeah. Interesting.
and the D guard looks like it swings away. I mean, it doesn't show that, but it's not attached, and it's got, you know what I mean? It looks like it could do something there.
Yeah.
Oh, I just saw it. Oh,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah. And it's got kind of a blaster look to it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a really cool pick, Michael.
It was
That's an
pure
aftermarket
funk and
trigger.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. He's got lots of cool pieces on here.
Some very pretty pieces.
Well, and like we talked before, a really cool combination of stuff like that. There's another one that has that just a few up from it that looks like it must be mammoth with a bunch of engraved stuff. Also has that cut and shoot look, but with a real flat handle, like an old blunderbuss kind of flat, no grip angle or low grip angle.
Funky.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing it finally loaded.
So there's cool pieces like that, but then there are almost like, God, I hate to call them primitive pieces, but that style, right? Like stacked handle material style.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in there's a big sword, right? Super, super.
The Vendel inspired sword.
Yes.
That's, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, holy shit.
It was like a battle axe.
Right.
The battle axe. I was just looking at that. Here,
Yeah.
I'm sending you guys a link to this folding dagger that is superb.
How heavy does that Vendel sword, how heavy must that thing be with a blade that wide?
I don't know, but I bet I'd like to find out. The sheath looks amazing for it too. I was
Yes.
just checking out. You guys are listening, being like, man,
Yeah, I know.
Podcasts don't have, you can't see them,
Exactly.
jackasses.
Oh, I know. That's when we were waiting for you to get the link over to us. I'm like, oh, Lord, I know what the kids at home feel like now. This is terrible.
I was starting to sweat. Messenger's like staring at me. I'm like, come on, Messenger.
Oh, man.
That folder
now-
was badass.
Once again, one of any of the harder to find ones that we had trouble on Google, we will do our best to get you the information and pictures we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
sure.
Little incentive to be in the Facebook group.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
This is a multimedia experience, bitches.
Yes. Okay.
I was another one I was excited for you guys to check out.
Yeah,
Super
Yeah.
cool.
that
Hell
is
yeah.
cool.
And his website, part of the reason it probably loads so slow is the photographs are really good.
They are really nice.
Yeah, they're not.
Yes,
It's a big website with a ton of knives on it.
Yep.
I may spend a little time checking some out.
All right. Well, that's a really cool piece and a huge collection of fantastic looking work. Really nice.
His take on the Viking sword is just next level.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Those pictures aren't hiding a lot of mistakes. Those are, we've talked about the
Pictures
quality
must
of
be hid,
pictures.
bud.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're just, you can tell that's a quality made piece.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go to, did we go to Tom or Sean after Michael? I think maybe Tom. Tom, what'd you pick as your oddity pick?
Okay, let me grab my link here.
Now, given that it's an oddity, did you have a little bit of an easier time with this one? Because there's some odd shit out there.
There is some odd shit.
Yeah, and you guys probably aren't going to think this is very odd, but like I said, fantasy is a weird thing for me. So I went with the TM Dow funny folder.
Oh.
It's really a bizarre, to me, it's always been a kind of a bizarre design, but the Dow ones were done so well, and they were really kind of art pieces almost, to my way of thinking. I sent you guys a link for one. I really like them, and they are definitely odd.
Mm-hmm.
So explain what this is.
Yeah.
Kids at home aren't seeing the pictures or the link while they're listening, Tom. So why don't you explain what the knife is and how it works?
So Smith & Wesson made some of these too, but basically it's got a handle that the knife swings out like 180 degrees, and then the handle rotates off the blade and onto the little frame, and it's all really tight tolerances. So it's inside when it flips out, and then when it does that, the pivot point moves, and then it swings around and it covers the handle, and it makes it really solid.
It's kind of like the shitty little fishing knife ones that were promotional ones that you can flip out, move the blade inward, and then lock it back in, except done on the outside and done well.
No, have you ever played with one? It swings both ways. Like,
no, the one I'm talking about that I was trying to reference for people is the fishing one opened differently. It opened out the front.
Yeah. So this thing must have a D10 in the end, Tom, or something to hold it, or?
No, it just, when you hold it in your hand, it locks everything together.
Okay.
Huh.
And have you ever played with one, Michael? Really? They're
I
really
have,
kind of cool.
actually. My dad has a Siki City knockoff of one that one of his buddies gave him about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, and I was wondering, I was like, there was a knife maker who designed this. This wasn't some guy who was in the design part of the fucking factory who came up with this.
Right.
Yeah.
They either, got this intellectual property on the up and up, or they straight up stole it, but somebody put a lot of thought into this, and now it makes so much sense.
First two were for sale in 1972.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I think they're really cool, and they're definitely odd.
Yes.
He's one of those
No, dude,
guys
nailed it.
covers a lot of range. I mean, his abilities and his scope of work is pretty massive. As
His
far as
lightweight hunters.
What's that?
His lightweight hunters were awesome.
But he's done that. He's done art knives. He's done, these folders. He's done a ton of stuff.
Oh, and the dowel integral. I mean,
Done them well,
to say the least. I mean, his integrals set the bar for the fucking genre.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I really like his work, and for whatever reason, I don't have any of his work in my collection.
Should have bought that hatchet in New York City
I know,
Oh, man.
I know, dude.
Oh,
with paperwork. That was dumb. Why didn't we buy that?
yeah.
Dude, I've missed so many pieces like that where you're like, oh, I'll go walk right back around and pick it up. I bought a Nichols at that show.
Like that Kronk.
Oh, Kronk.
And my old pal sucked that baby up right out from under me.
You didn't show any intent.
Son of a biscuit.
You learn about shitting or getting off a pot, won't you, cousin?
You learn about it one way or the other. I got it the hard way. Damn.
Good pick, man.
Yes. Oh,
Very nice. Very nice. Especially with that stag, man. That's some sweet stag on that baby, too.
and I'm going to go show this to my dad because he and I have talked about the lineage of possibly where that knife could have come from several times. And it's nice to be able to go to him and be like, hey, Pop, check this out.
I
Yeah.
can't believe I came up with something neither one of you knew about. That's pretty hard to do.
And
Well, there
that's
you
why
go.
it's an obscurity. That's why it's an oddity.
All right. Okay, so oddity. I think Sean is up next.
All right, for my oddity, I started out, I remembered seeing a Knuckle Duster Balisong in the 80s in the Valor of Miami Knives catalog. So I went looking for that, and currently they're still being made pretty much the same way they were when I was a kid. And man, those are, very odd. Fucking de-guarded butterfly knife. But now, in my searches, trying to find out more information on them, I happened upon what is basically a 2-finger knuck butterfly knife. And I just sent a link to you, gentlemen.
Now that is
Whoa.
strange.
That is strange.
Follow the link. The dude gives a write-up on it, and he shows it in multiple open positions. And it looks like you can use it as knucks, as a standard butterfly knife with knucks, or it looks like it has kind of a partially open position where you hold the knucks and the blade would be hammer fisty.
Oh, yeah.
Coming from the bottom. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now the example that I've sent the guys a link to, it looks shop made by somebody.
Yeah.
The fit and finish doesn't look that great, but this is one of those things where the idea and the concept is so much more than the execution that it deserves to be mentioned.
Talk
That is
about
definitely-
a knuckle buster. Flip that thing around on your knuckles.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely an oddity. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially the 2-finger jobby. Like
Yeah.
the D-guard, that's odd, but I've seen those. I've seen those around. The 2-finger knuck, that's unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really is.
And I mean, dude, whoever made that gave a shit. He put a lot of thought into that.
Right.
That project was something to him, and I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? In the position where it's open, flipped open butterfly knife style, it very much reminds me of like a Leatherman. Like I wonder if that's where that might have come from, the idea of it anyway. It looks like a set of Leatherman handles almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. If
Yeah.
that was pliers coming out of the top, yeah.
Right. But maybe that's how that came about, right? I mean, I could certainly make that up in my head anyway. Like, hey, I got this Leatherman that I got these pliers that come out the front. What if I had a knife? Oh yeah, well, what if I hooked to a set of fucking knucks, man?
Coors Light had to be involved.
Yes.
And once again, this is a knife that I would very much like to look at with my hands and not just my eyes.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to flip it around, possibly cut myself a few times. It'd be great. And by possibly, I mean definitely.
When Sean sent me this pic, there was no maker. It just said Balisong Trench. And I Googled Balisong Trench and I'm like, how the fuck do you not cut yourself apart when you're using that thing? Oh, I didn't find this one, obviously, right? This is a pretty specific find, the 2-finger one that Sean's talking about. But if you search that, it's like, wait a second, how do you even use that? Not in a traditional Balisong way. There aren't dudes out there doing Balisong flipping competition with a Balisong trench knife. Not with all their fingers, anyway.
Not yet.
All right, Balisong trench. That is a very curious oddity. There's no doubt about it.
Good pick, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good find.
Oh, dude, I was so happy to happen upon that 2-finger knuck, dude. As soon as I saw it, it was just like love at first sight, or at least some kind of weird infatuation stalker thing.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Oh, all right. So my oddity, I actually had 2 makers, but I had a couple of examples from both of these guys. I was going to actually get a hold of Kylie and ask her to give me the pronunciation of this guy's name because he's come to the New York show before. His name is Chaba. I know that's how you pronounce his first name because I had a friend that was named Chaba. So Chaba Vojko, maybe Vojko. So it's spelled Csaba, which I believe is pronounced Chaba, and Vojko. So he's a Hungarian maker. And the picture I just sent to the guys is
Ooh.
it's
a big bunch of holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
It's a way in the oddity category, right? So what I sent them is this thing called a combo axe knife or a combo axe gun, right? But it has everything,
It's got a knife in the butt,
right? Knife in the butt,
which probably never is
like
really
a few
a
of
good
our
thing.
friends.
Unless you're in jail.
Right.
Prison carry.
Yeah.
So this thing, it is like basically like a tomahawk, right? It's got a tomahawk-ish head. So it looks like a tomahawk, but it also looks like a flintlock. But like a sawed-off flintlock with a tomahawk on the end. So it's kind of like a axe version of a cut and shoot.
Yeah.
And so it's got his carbon Damascus and rosewood handle that's all carved in really kind of deep carved style. Very pretty. It's got a flintlock mechanism with like a very fancy trigger guard flintlock setup. And yeah, this like tomahawk head on the end. But it's almost steampunkish or something.
It looks straight from the Met's Arms and Armory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very old school, you know, I don't know. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wonder if you get a shift in your point of aim if you chop with it. I don't see any sights, so probably not.
Well, it's pretty stubby.
It's pretty cool.
Especially for a black powder. Imagine that thing going off. It's got to be like a fucking bomb coming out the end.
Jesus. There's some trigger discipline when you're chopping.
Right.
Yeah.
So to further complicate things, so the guy mentioned it has a knife. I didn't realize this when I first started looking at the pictures of this thing. There's actually a video about this online. So it's like, okay, here's this flintlock thing with a big axe head on the end. And it's incredibly well done, right? It sounds it looks much more beautiful than I'm making it sound. But then it's like, it's got a lanyard sticking out the butt of the stock, or kind of like the sawed off handle. And it turns out when you pull on the lanyard, a knife comes out. So there's like a knife hidden in the handle of a gun that's got an axe head on it. It's got the entire armory in one piece.
And it's all Damascus.
And it's all Damascus. Yes.
It's really cool.
In here.
Dude makes some crazy stuff. I'll send you his website. We'll post it in the Facebook group too, because he's got tons of cool stuff to look at. This one, I'm going to send you another one of his, because this is fascinating. This is going to make Tom's head explode. Watch this. So Tom needs that first one because it's got a gun and an axe, right?
I know.
It has to be on the collection. But look at this thing.
Pricey.
The next thing is it's an axe that has two knives inside.
What?
A knife and a knife, like a Russian nesting doll.
Right.
That is so cool.
The knife Russian nesting doll is a perfect description. So it's an axe, again, beautifully carved handle. Everything is Damascus, very elaborate axe head. And then
a wedge on that.
Right. And then the handle has a lanyard. When you pull the lanyard out, it pulls out a big knife that's in the handle. But if you pull the lanyard out of that knife, there's a tiny knife in the handle of the big knife.
What do you think the next one's going to be?
A knife. Obviously.
Was it Rinaldi or was it Steminich that did some of that? Had
I think
they called it
the Parasite blade.
Parasite.
There you go.
I think it was Rinaldi.
Yeah.
I thought so, but
Well, no, I think Rob might have done the ones with the actual nesting. I think Trace's Parasite was a smaller fixed blade that rode on top, kind of piggyback style of the larger Armageddon fixed blade.
maybe. I couldn't remember.
Very cool. So yeah, how about that guy out of Hungary?
And it seems like the axe knife was a thing in Germany in the 17th century.
Oh, was it really?
From what I'm seeing, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen one in where I'm looking right now. I've seen one or two actual historic pieces, it looks like.
Yeah.
Imagine showing up to the hunt with just an axe.
Right.
You feel like such a loser.
Yeah.
Your pals would be like, oh man, you just going to set the fire for us?
Seems like Hungary, there's quite a few really, really good makers from Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my esoteric pick, was the axe gun.
Well played.
And I'll send you the link. That guy, like I said, that guy's got a bunch of crazy stuff. But
yeah.
So the hawk knife was kind of a backup pick. But the other one that I thought was really cool and an oddity is someone that we're all very familiar with, a guy named Hidetoshi Nakayama. And so he's most known kind of in our scene as a bolt action pen guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one of his pens that David Ricardo engraved for me, and the thing is super, super crazy cool. So Nakayama, he does knives as well, right? So he's got some small folding knives that he does. And then both Brady and our friend Vince at Fort Henry, so Brady at Monkey Edge and Vince at Fort Henry had this piece in a couple of different forms. So the one I just sent them is a piece that Vince had, and it's called a bracelet knife. So it's got a strap on it like a watch, like a leather strap. And it's got this, Nakayama style, kind of steampunky finished mechanism thing in the middle of where a watch would be. And when you punch the latch on this piece, it looks like a bracelet. It has a tiny knife hidden inside. So you can take it and pop the knife piece out and then latch it in backwards into the latch. And then you have this sort of like, almost like a hideaway kind of thing, where it looks like just this funny steampunky bracelet, but there's actually a double-edged knife stashed inside inside the bracelet.
Took that belt knife a little bit further.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, kind of a funky piece. And I don't know if it's fantasy, but it's got that steampunky thing going on, I think. And then I had a picture of one that Brady had. This one's a little bit different. This is like a little hidden talon knife. And so it's like a funky keychain thing.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that one.
Have you?
Uh-huh.
So it's got this little, it almost looks like a LeGriff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That stashes in kind of a hard-sided sheath, like a carved sheath almost, that could ride on a belt loop or on a keychain or something. And it's got this little LeGriff style, but without the ring on it, almost like a sawed-off LeGriff stashed inside there. So Brady had a cool example of that on his site.
That's really
Very
cool.
cool.
Really well done.
Yeah.
I wonder when that was made, because the dangler knife thing was a fad there for a decent little bit.
Yeah,
And that definitely fits into the dangler category.
very much so. Yeah.
Back in the late 90s.
Yeah. So a couple of funky ones. One from Hungary and one from Japan. What Burch, you had another oddity. Did that turn into your backup pick? You flipped them around?
I don't know which oddity you're speaking of. I do have another backup one. I don't have a lot of information on it though, because the site is in French. It is an Allen Valette Eureka knife.
Okay.
And it's basically, what got me was the funky opening, because it basically has a crown on the top, kind of like a watch, and you rotate that. It's got a little mechanism, and as you turn that, the blade opens out. And you pop it in, a little folder.
Look at that.
Now, it seems like he makes like different versions of it. Like the top one looks like it has a crank, so you can crank the blade out and put that down. Then the next one is a little watch version.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of funky. And you pop it down, kind of like the crown of a watch.
Oh,
kinda
yeah.
Pop it in.
Those are crazy.
That is super cool.
Now,
Wow.
do you think I'm wrong in saying there's a little bit of a Michael Walker inspiration of the
Yeah.
aesthetic on that?
A little bit. It's almost a Corrado.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not Corrado. That's not how you pronounce his name. But you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
The attention to detail is crazy. Those are definitely,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow.
I wish I knew what the rest of it said, but I do not.
Put that baby in Google Translate.
Yeah, I need to do that.
Translate.google.com and lay the address in there. Oh, yeah. Did you watch the video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
The video is awesome because it definitely is trying to highlight the fact that it's got a lot of watch-like characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's super cool that the little opening crown latches into the handle so it isn't hanging out there.
Yeah, that little detail got to me quite a bit. I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the detail where the devil is on that one, in my opinion.
Once again, don't know how the hell I came across this one.
Yeah,
Fate.
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you had one that you sent me, Michael, that was called the Blade Bow.
Yeah, once again, it was another one that I could not find information online worth a shit about. So I kind of dropped it because I was like, I don't know what to do with that. It was basically the same idea, of a funky, knife, but it had a little bow on it. Let's see here. I think I got rid of that link though. Yeah, I deleted that one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find a picture of it.
Yeah, that was my biggest problem. Was the only picture I found was in a book.
Oh, okay.
It was in the Custom Fixed Blades, a Durham Custom Fixed Blades book.
Yeah.
And it's super funky and kind of like the Hungarian pieces you picked out.
Yeah.
And it was, who was Jack Levine? Was that the maker I sent you?
Levin, yeah, Levin.
Very much artistically carved and sculpted, and
it
looked like it was straight from the Met again, the Arms and Armory part. But yeah, I couldn't find really much about it.
Yeah, all his stuff is that way, right? Super ornate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, not a lot of info, right? Because it looks like it's hard to find the info, but Jack Levin, look that name up, and Blade Bow is the one that Burch had picked.
Is Jack the Russian maker that did the automatics?
I don't know. I really don't.
Probably.
Like I said, there's just so little about it.
Seems like I had one.
Huh.
I don't know.
Or maybe it was in the Great Collections. I'll find it again, and when this is live, I'll post it in there, just a picture maybe. Don't sue us. Just for folks to get an idea of it.
Yeah, it says a lifelong knife enthusiast, Jack made his first folding knife at age 15 in Riga, Riga, and then had made knives for at least another 40 years. Very cool. On knifelegends.com, described as like a legend or master, it almost isn't enough. So definitely a guy worth checking out.
Yeah, they did. I did find a lot of information about him on that page. Like they had a bio on him, or a highlight, or whatever you want to call it, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
But I wanted more knives. It makes you wonder about some of those guys that are just quietly making amazing works,
Now, I'm looking at some of his stuff. Are a few of these folders autos?
It seems clear that they must be, right?
I think most of them are.
Yeah, with the way that toggle pops up and looks like it lays back down. It looks like one of the classic German openers.
Yeah. But talk about ornate. Holy shit.
A feast for the eyes.
Super cool. Okay. So we've been through esoteric and oddity. So this is the finale, Sean. This is the part where we play the walk-on music, because now it's time for high fantasy.
The fantastic.
High fantasy.
All right, so we've been going to Burch first. So Burch, what is your high fantasy pick?
Woo. There.
He's fanning himself right now. I can hear it.
I didn't know quite what to pick. So I'll probably end up sending all these to you guys. But I went back to, for this one, I went back to that very 90s fantastic dagger. There were so many to pick from your Warinskis and your Rigbys and all that stuff. But this one, I went with the Kurt Erickson piece for pick number 1.
Oh, high fantasy pick number 1.
Yeah. How do you not? It epitomizes everything that is. What's that?
I know that knife. I have seen it before.
The Imperial Ring Hilt Dagger. It is gorgeous. The details, the lines, it is everything you would want in that style of knife.
The pommel. Oh my God.
And so many guys have done the style well, but I think Erickson kind of epitomizes this style to me.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
So Michael, give the kids at home that are driving, give them the visual walk, give them the descriptive walkthrough of what they should be visualizing.
So think of like I hate to say it like this, if you want to put it in a fancy term, like your Hobbit sword type of blade, a very kind of sweeping recurve dagger blade. Your pommel is actually has a jewel in it and comes out, and it almost looks like architecture, like beautiful architecture. I don't know. It's just, it's amazingly done. It's got engraving. It's got inlay work. It's got curves for days. It just, you have to see it. It's got some Rob Thomas stainless, a black jade gemstone. I guess that's what's in the back. Oh no, a pave diamond.
That's a diamond in the hilt or in the pommel, and black jade for the handle.
Just, it's an art piece. It's a
and don't
museum
forget the
piece.
gold work on it.
It's a lot of gold inlay, yes.
There's a lot going on.
Man,
The only straight line
Double-edged.
on it is the line down the middle,
Yes.
Yeah.
the grind.
I mean, it's a double-edged Celtic leaf shape. I've seen that shape historically.
There you go.
Mhm.
And then a horned guard, a double ring behind the guard, what I guess would be called a crowned pommel, because it looks like like a crown on a crown rib roast.
Yep.
And just spectacular. Damn. Solid pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, with a bunch of diamond pave in some very key places that make that thing look super sparkly and crazy in person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
This
But
is
I mean,
a great example of like what Sean talked about where, okay, it looks really good in the pictures, right? These might not be coupe photos, but they kind of look like it. So really, really nice photos. And good Lord, what must that thing look like in the hand, right?
it's got to be fantastic.
I wish there were some specs on it. I would really like to know how long that blade is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the ring where it looks like a pair of diamond rings. So when you're holding it, you must put your index and middle finger through there. Is that the idea? Or is that, I mean, it could just be like a guard, but it almost
I think
looks
it's
like
just a guard.
Yeah, I think it's a
that's,
side blade catcher.
Yeah, there's a name for it, but I don't remember what it is. It is a guard of sorts that's supposed to be, I don't know. But it's another piece that's gotten very elaborate through some of these makers.
Okay.
It's cool, man.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy looking.
Beautiful piece.
Yep. Lots of gold, but not in a garish way, right? Like in a really cool accent way.
Oh, no.
And I guess when you look at it, you wouldn't think that's a fantasy. But I mean, I don't know where else do you put that? Yes, it's art, but I don't know. It toes a line to me.
No, dude, I'll back your play on that one.
Yep.
It certainly makes me think fantastical thoughts.
I mean, it feels like I could read that in a fantasy book, adventures, and this is I don't know, it's amazing.
Right, some kind of magical piece or something. It's got all that going on.
Yeah, dude, it just makes me think of times and places that never were.
Yeah.
Really cool piece.
At the same time, I feel like that's something we could see in the Met that somebody made for a king or something.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly, a majesty to the piece, I think is a very apt way to put it.
Yep, majesty's a great word.
Now I'm trying to figure out the name of that guard.
It's a ring hilt, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I've always, but I think I have heard a more technical term for it.
I bet there is, and someone screaming it right now. You dumb shits.
Birds pounding on the dashboard. It's a truck right now. You dumb son of a bitches. It's a...
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to circle back and get you like daggers, Burch? Dagger was your horse you rode for these high fantasy. What was your second high fantasy dagger?
See, the second one was a little bit tougher because of finding photos. I really wanted to do a Lochner. Because I mean, Lochner pieces they flow. He does a lot of like hand filed like grind stuff. I mean, it's hard to call it a grind when you hand file that stuff. And he did a piece for the 2012 Helsinki show that it's the same idea, the same sort of, but it's not. It's all Lochner. The way it flows in and locks in. If you click on the link I sent you, you'll see it's going to IQ Knives. It is the second one over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that guard,
Wow.
It has that horn guard, but it's brought into the sweep of the plunges.
Yeah.
So take into account this is all hand filed, whatever. He sent the blade off to Jurgen to heat treat.
Okay.
Stenau to heat treat, and that's about it.
Wow.
And as far as pictures, there's not a ton. I found another one, a very bad picture that might give your computer a virus, but at least it shows the full thing. Now, as far as I know on this piece, it was 19-inch dagger. The inside, like, filleted inlay is like black mother of pearl. Or black lip. It's amazing. It's hard to describe this knife and how it flows. It's a dagger, but yet it's so much more. It's sculpture basically, which I think when you talk about Lochner pieces, a lot of that is just modern sculpture work.
Yes.
Yeah.
As evidenced by the pieces around it in this webpage, right?
Yeah.
On both sides of it are crazy looking super sculpture pieces.
It's a cool website there. I want that photo to be so much more than it is.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I want the full, image of it. And the next thing I just sent you is basically someone took a photo of his table. Click on it at your own,
Yep. I just went on a watch list from clicking on that link.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That's the same piece, or is it another one?
Same piece.
Wow.
It's amazing what a good photography and a dark photo on a, dark table will do.
Right. Right. Yeah. That is a very large knife.
Whoa.
So for people listening at home, this is definitely you have to see the photo to understand it, but very much, one of those pieces where you look at it and say, oh yeah, that's a Lochner, right? Like you know what it is by looking at it almost. And the horn guard thing, like you said, integral to the blade, it looks like. So you think that's all one piece of metal? Looks like it is anyway.
Yeah, and it's basically just it looks cut in.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
then,
the horns on the horn guard go in and run right into the plunges.
they curve right into it. I would have liked to seen the process of how that was done.
Oh yeah.
I say a lot of patience and a lot of just, I don't know. I very much took this one to a kind of a literal fantasy kings and queens and that type of
Right.
realm.
Yep. I love those very sweepy pieces on either side on that page too, especially the one to the right.
Yes.
Yeah, that D-guard guy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of listeners have know about. I don't know if we said his name, Wolfgang Lochner. Sometimes you can type in Wolf Lochner with an E. But they're sculptures, they're artwork that they're just. I'll have to get one of these pieces one of these days.
Yeah, and for people you won't get the spelling from the way it's pronounced as Loerchner, but super well known. I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar, but for those of you who aren't, go check out that stuff. It really is sort of on its own planet.
Yeah, he can take a piece of stainless steel with no other fittings or colors and make it absolutely gorgeous just by filing these very Art Deco type of lines into it.
Yeah, it's funny when you said D-guard, Sean, because it's almost like the most flowy calligraphy D-guard, right?
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah, it looks liquid.
It does, yeah. Yeah.
Imagine doing that with just files and sandpaper and patience and skill.
Yep. Like a hyper organic piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the wild part is that the back part of the D where it hits the handle, it looks like comes to a point with a tiny gap.
Yeah, doesn't touch. Just like the blade doesn't actually touch the D guard.
Right. So cool. Wow. Fantastic pieces for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Great picks.
Well, you had a third one. Do you have a picture of the third one or no?
Even harder to find a picture of this one.
I'm going to send you even more sketchy website to look at it.
Yeah. All I could find on this one was basically a photo from the Guild show that showed a picture of his table, Billy Mace Immel, or ML. I'm not quite ever sure how you pronounce his name.
Is it Imel?
Immel? I never know.
But it depends on what region you're in.
I think if you're just a dipshit from Ozark, you just say it incorrectly all the time. But if you go to this website and scroll down, you'll see this. It's another dagger. It won the. Oh, which one was it? The 2010 dagger won Guild Show Best Art Knife, and it's amazing. It's another version of it. It's very much his style. But those huge sweeping outward guards that almost look like arms coming out are just, it's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy looking.
Mm-hmm.
Very three-dimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I was assembling all of the picks and sorting out, any duplicates and all that stuff. And I was talking to Michael earlier. I'm like, there's a lot of very three-dimensional knives in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the picture right above, you can get a better feel for that ring guard.
Yeah, how big it is.
And then the arms that come off the side, the kind of, I don't even know what to call that. It's kind of like a hyper blade catcher kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's got ivory handle. It's just...
Pierce blade.
Fluted ivory handle.
Fluted ivory, yeah.
Yeah, and you'll see that the blade is very familiar if you've looked at some of his pieces in the Points of Interest books. He's done that kind of dagger, but different iterations of it with the fluting and the piercings and stuff. But
the fluted handle used to be really popular.
And for the record, I'm a huge mark for the integral dagger that is in the picture below it. I love that knife. Every iteration of it I've ever seen has just been titties.
Absolutely. I think for me, I'm just a huge fan of that whole idea of the dagger, that Cordoba version.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few guys that have done that well with these huge sweeping grinds, and gets me all aflutter.
What's the one that Joe Cordova did? Was it the Gladius?
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah, that was really sexy.
Yeah, man. Well, those are my 3-1 picks.
The triple high fantasy pick.
Yeah. Finding pictures from these was kind of tough.
Yeah.
I'll try to crop some of these out and stuff so I don't send them to shady websites.
Did you find these pieces in on the book side and then went online to dig up photos?
No. Sometimes I got the person in my head, and then I started looking for their knives.
Right.
And sometimes, other way around. I kind of did book and website. Then once I found that one Lochner piece, I just like, that's the one I have to show you guys. That's the version that hits me the most. Even though it doesn't, there's not enough photos of it as I think there should be.
Right.
It catches me in the feels.
Yeah, this thing, researching these was very much rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Dig and then dig a little more and then, oh, look at that. And then dig a little more and, oh my gosh, look at that. And just head on down.
I'm sure the kids were asking me questions. I was like, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, that looks right. Sitting at my little tiny table with my little tiny chair.
Right.
With a pile of books and internet away.
Dad, we're going to have beers and birthday cake for breakfast. Is that okay? Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me know when you're done.
Breakfast birthday cake calls for wine, you Philistine.
Sorry. Major social faux pas. All right, Tom, I think you hit this one on the money. I think you made a straight cash money pick on this one. So you want to talk about your high fantasy choice?
So one of the names that always comes up when I think fantasy anyways is Virgil England. So I looked through some of his work because I really wanted to pick something from him. And I picked something that's a little different even from his normal stuff. And I just sent a link to basically a whole plethora of his work. But the one I picked is a helmet, actually. And it's actually in one of the Knives Points of Interest books. It's called The Soul Keep. And if you've got the Knives Points of Interest books, it's in volume 3, page 70. Or we can put this up, and if you scroll down, it's ways down, but it's a really cool bronze helmet. And it's got these 2 blades that come off the top, and it's just, I don't know, it's really cool. I've always liked this piece.
Yeah. I love the ponytail tassel thing on it. I think that is what sets the whole piece off.
When those blades are just really cool. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so what kind of helmet is that? I mean, obviously it's a fantasy kind of helmet, but that piece makes me think, the first thing I think when I see it is Frank Frazetta, Sean.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Death Dealer helmet.
It looks like it's kind of a bronze and leather layup, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's any leather on it. I think it's all different kinds of bronze finishes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild.
If you look in the book, it's a much better picture. Those blades are Damascus.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really a cool piece. It makes me think of almost like a Valkyrie or something.
Yeah. So for the people listening, like Tom said, you're going to have to get a good picture of this out of the book or something, Tom, to share, but it's almost like a horned helmet, right? With horns coming out the kind of ear areas, and pointing vertical in a very crazy, only Virgil England could do kind of shape on each side. But the horns are blades. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
We might call that bitchin'.
Bitchin'.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, on the same page, there's another helmet called the Hawker's Helm.
Yeah.
That is just
another super cool piece.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, that whole link, everything in there could basically have been picked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just said, well, go to this link and that's my pick. And that Wereviper hand and a half sword. Jeez.
Yeah. Virgil England, if we didn't mention him in the upfront piece, very clearly master of this genre, right? We've talked about him before on the show, and
oh yeah,
a couple of these specific pieces I think that maybe are on this page, but really kind of the definition of fantasy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, he would create a whole story and world around each of his pieces.
Really fun.
And this Skinwalker saber, oh man, that's a large Damascus blade.
It really is. Yeah, with a big old hollow down the side.
Yeah, hot fuller.
Yeah.
So that was forged in.
That's so cool. Kind of like a double D guard thing going on.
Yeah.
The commander's signal baton is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yes,
I
it is.
saw that.
Wow.
Yeah. What
Awesome.
what a great artist.
Yeah. This is a really nice collection of his pictures of his stuff, right? Some of these pieces we've talked about, I think, because they look very familiar, or they could just be variations on other pieces. Virgil England, I think, a fairly prolific maker, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of pieces out there, and for being as detailed and like the stuff that went with it, it wasn't just like you got a knife. It was, like you said, a story and possibly a presentation case and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to wonder how many pieces. There's a bunch of helmets in here if you keep on scrolling. They're really, really crazy. All right. Great pick, Tom.
Quintessential pick.
Yeah, right. Right. Cornerstone kind of piece. Sean, you want to throw your high fantasy pick in here?
For my high fantasy piece, I didn't go straight fantasy. I went sci-fi fantasy.
Oh.
And I chose the Klingon Duk-Tak. And that's the Klingon warrior's knife with the spring-loaded V-guard. First seen in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
Check that out.
And I remember seeing that movie when I was a kid. The Klingon, I think it was Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon at that, pulls the knife out and then pops that guard. And I was just like, fucking A. I got to get me some of that.
Nothing like making a statement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And here, I'll give you this is from Star Wars. Oh, geez. Just lost a bunch of listeners
Hey
there.
now. Oh, Lord.
This is from a Star Trek fan site, and it says the Dak was the traditional Klingon warrior's knife. It consisted of a single straight-edge primary blade and 2 curved secondary blades, which could be either fixed or hinged. It was commonly used in hand-to-hand combat and had great ceremonial value in Klingon culture. The handle featured a round, spiked pommel and sometimes bore an emblem representing the members of its owner's house near the hilt of the blade.
Wow.
Very cool.
And I guess I could have sent you guys a link to that, but
I
why
was
the
just
fuck
sitting
would I
here
start
waiting for
being
the link.
professional now?
Who are you, me?
Right.
And just, man, I like everything about that knife. You guys know I'm obvious by now I'm a sucker for the pop-out V-guards in the
Yes.
first place. And, I mean, that knife just hits on all cylinders for me. I mean, it's got the pommel that is round, and it's got the
like
little
a weight.
spikes coming off of it. Like you could take it off and throw it at somebody if it was poisoned. And
I remember
I mean,
that.
just a super fucking cool knife. And, I mean, okay, the whole Klingon thing, we could really go down a rabbit hole with Klingon edged weapons.
Oh, yeah.
And that brings us back around to Gil Hibben, who is the official armorer of the Klingon Empire.
Oh.
And he has done several. Like I think it's his Raptor model was used in several episodes of the Star Wars. Gosh damn, there they go again.
We're gonna
Star Trek
sue.
TV show.
What's the big one that's two-handed?
The Botlet.
Yeah, it's like
Did you pull that just from memory? Or you're looking at a page.
No, that was from memory. I've got up our chat right now.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's a wonder I've ever seen pussy, right?
Wow. Yeah, that one is like what am I thinking of that has that kind of shape like that you use two-handed? Maybe it's almost like I'm thinking of a staff or something, or shoot, I don't even know. But two-handed edged weapon, but like that you can spin around and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Don't know.
No, and the Klingon knife's neat. I mean, most of the iterations you see of it, the blade is really narrow, but then toward the head, it widens out and looks almost kind of like a broadhead.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got the 2, guards that pop out, and they look beveled and sharpened also.
They do, yeah.
It's the guards that pop out that catch you, that get you. That
Oh,
I mean, I remember as a kid seeing that and being like, oh, shit.
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's
kinda
the
like-
sizzle on the steak.
Yeah. It's like that sorcery movie where they had the sword where didn't parts of the sword fly off or something? The hell was
Yeah.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit. I should know that.
Yep.
You should
that was
know
the
it.
movie that I haven't seen and everybody else had. Right?
Oh, I went back later and was like, whoa, that was but as a kid I was like, holy shit.
Right. Doesn't the Kurgan sword do something like this, Sean, where it deploys
Yes, it
the
has
guards?
the spring-loaded V-guard.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, fun, man. All right. Klingon edged weapons. That's fantastic.
And like I said, there's a rabbit hole you can go down to there. The Star Trek fandom, very thorough in their research. A lot of folks making props themselves. And there's some neat stuff. There's some ideas that a fella could definitely take away from it.
Yeah. The Star Trek fan world does not fuck around.
No, they tend to take it quite serious.
Yes.
The batlet reminds me of some type of a Chinese weapon. I can't
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Tom.
think of what it is, but it reminds me of something quite a bit.
Yeah. I've seen something like that before. That's like
Maybe a hook sword or something.
something. Yeah.
Now, if you guys want to see the ultimate batlet, it's the Sword of Kales. Let's see.
You're going to spell some of
Yeah, I was
this.
going to say, Sean says that shit like we know how to spell Klingon. I can't spell in
gonna be-
Klingon. I can barely spell in English.
Extra letters and
the Sword of Kales is Kahles. If you can't spell sword, don't listen to our fucking show.
Oh, I came across that piece. Is that that's a Gil Hibben piece, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Like, I mean, if you go to Gil's site, there's a whole whole section for the Klingon stuff. Him in full Klingon makeup and battle garb. I mean, just to the nines.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty fantastic.
Oh, it was the Sword and the Sorcerer where parts of the sword flew off.
There you go.
And that was 1982. Once again, back in the minds of crazy props getting turned into crazier custom knives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome pick, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nobody expects the sci-fi angle.
Yeah. Very crafty.
I have my moments.
All right, high fantasy. This is the last. We're wrapping it up here, man. Whoa! What did you just send us, Michael?
That was private. That was an almost pick.
Oh, all right.
You know what that is? That's straight up Kronk right there, buddy.
Yeah, it sure is.
Wow.
That was called the Excalibur.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like an inverse horn guard floating
Mhm.
in a regular flat guard.
Thought that was just going to sneak that into the chat.
Pretty fab. Yeah, right. Very subtle.
Oh, did you happen to notice that?
Did you happen to notice that insane Kronk I dropped in the chat?
My fifth pick?
Right.
Did you happen to see it?
You damn cheater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. High fantasy. I actually did a little bit like Tom, and I dipped my toe into the definition of fantasy makers. And so the first one I had was the Gilhibben Titan. And
Very cool.
Righteous.
the Titan is another hyper three-dimensional piece. So basically like a blade that, like most Gilhibben knives, has other blades hooked to it, and then a matching pair of blades that are 180 degrees around the central axis to the main blades. So basically like a four-pronged claw with a blade sticking out the center. Serrated blade sticking out the center, by the way.
Yeah, that is very Hibben.
Yes.
So very Hibben. And it's like, and people, like we talked about, kind of sometimes shit on the idea of fantasy knives and all that stuff. And maybe because, some of the cheaper companies picked them up, and it got hyped that way. But as far as like a custom, look at that and imagine making that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think your perspective might change a little bit, because that's some crazy shit going on.
Oh, man, I get stress-induced IBS just thinking about what went into that. I mean, jeez.
You look at some of the 90s and 80s Hibbins pieces, and they're also heavily like polished. And in my head, I'm like thinking all these things sticking out, and you're polishing. I'm like,
That's a
shit,
nightmare.
that scares me.
On a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, at least for me, the United stuff, like the production stuff, is a real turnoff for me. But when I see the actual custom pieces, it's like mind blowing.
Very much.
Man,
there's a lot of skill, man.
When it comes to the United pieces, I kind of have a suspension of disbelief I associate with those, and I accept them for what they are. And I don't have a hard time with them.
It
Well,
depends
shit,
on
you
which
said
ones.
Get what I'm saying?
The silver double shadow, you sent those to us. I got mine.
Right, but I guess that's fantasy too, but I'm, like the ones with the blades all coming off, I don't know. I do like some of the United stuff, but not the, like this Titan. That doesn't do it for me.
Now, Mark, on the first picture you sent me, where did you find that picture? Because the handle on that dude, that's a classic example of like Russian filigree work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I got that off Gil's site.
That is something else.
Because-
I mean, that handle is...
Yeah, that particular one is crazy cool.
I mean,
Is it
that's
cast?
icing on that cake.
It looks like cast.
Does that not remind you of like a Tibetan dagger or like one of the...
Yeah.
Oh, 110%.
I mean, they're really cool.
It makes... Ah, shit. The shadow dagger.
There you go.
Yeah, man. That's what you sent us.
So I think that kind of grainy picture that has the what looks like cast, very ornate handle with like big stones in it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of his original customs of that design.
Right.
And then I think the second picture is the production United version of that knife, I think.
That's what it looks like.
So one of the fun things about, if you go to Gil Hibben's site and start scrolling through, I think he and his son cataloged like hundreds and hundreds of knives. Sean mentioned that a minute ago, that there's a beautiful portfolio there of all kinds of stuff. And there are some nice captions in there where it's like, this was the original custom for this model. And then there's another picture that says, this model was picked up by United Cutlery. And I don't know how many say this model was picked up by United Cutlery, but it's in the dozens at least, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hyper prolific.
Yeah. And if you're our age, and you didn't want the Highlander buoy as a kid,
right,
then I don't know what to tell you.
Were you even living?
You got
what kind of life was it?
Did you have a girlfriend or something? What's up with
that? But yeah, that first custom one, it's a different, and this is maybe what Tom is keying off on, like the proportions of it are different, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it look much more sleek and kind of nasty, right? Where the production one is kind of like, okay, I hate to say it this way, it's almost like a dumbed down version of it, right? Like it's simplified, and it has to be because they got to actually make this thing for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the custom one is like, oh, look at that. He put a giant ass ball end mill in there and created those, like, I don't know, 8 gut hooks in 3 dimensions on that thing. It's like, what the hell is that?
So I'm on Gil's site, clicking around, and he's got all of his old catalogs, and he's got one from Springdale, Arkansas. He lived right here, apparently.
Yeah.
He was at Silver City for 5 or 6 years or something, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew that.
Very cool.
Everything.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, so Gil Hibben, right? Kind of goes without saying, maybe kind of a cheater pick because it was an obvious one, but
had to be picked though.
In high fantasy, how can you not, right? It's like, it's respectful.
Good call.
Well, you still picked a kind of less common pick, so I'll allow it.
Well, thank you, kind sir. It's because we are learned brothers now.
Us learned men must stick together, must we not?
Yes, exactly. So originally, I had picked the Hibben Scorpion, which is kind of similar to the other Scorpion knife that Sean mentioned earlier, I think. Not the same, right? But same kind of idea, right? Make a knife that kind of looks like a Scorpion with lots of crazy hooks and extra points and blades stuck all over the place. And when I was looking up Scorpion, I came across this other one. I'm going to send you guys right now. And this is one where it's like, okay, maybe this isn't fantasy, but it's kind of fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And so this is like a second pick for high fantasy. This is Paul Maffei. I assume you pronounce it Maffi. And so this thing, if I was to describe it to someone, I would call it maybe a slightly blocky Big Bear turned recurve with a gut hook with some very stylized front guard and a bunch of other details. Who's the maker I'm thinking of, Michael, that does this sort of squared off handle on Big Bear? Kressler?
Yeah, Dietmar.
Yeah. So it's got a little Kressler going on from the handle back, because that's what it reminded me of when I first saw the picture. I'm like, oh, that's like a Dietmar Kressler, like an amped up version of a Dietmar Kressler Big Bear handle.
That's a crazy blade.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And is that an integral?
I don't know. Hard to tell from that picture. It's a real small one. Sorry.
Happy to see it. Because, I mean, I really wouldn't question, but when you start looking at where the blade meets the guard,
yes,
it looks like there's no real demarcation other than drop and polish.
Right. So it could be integral, or it could be just a really clean solder job, cleaned up really, really, really nice in that little radius right there. But yeah, I had a couple different things from him that I looked at. He makes some really cool stuff. He had a really, he had a daggery thing that reminded me a lot of one of Virgil England's designs. But yeah, this thing is real cool. it's got lines and a fuller kind of stashed in the middle of all of it. You know what I mean? I would love to see the shape of that blade in hand because
Yeah.
the profile is very wild looking.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, Paul Maffey Scorpion. We'll post a picture in the Facebook group because it's worth looking at. And you know what? It almost makes me think. I don't know why, but he calls it the Scorpion, and I can see why. But to me, it almost has like a shark-like kind of shape. You see what I'm talking about, Michael? Where like almost like Corvette Stingray-ish kind of shapes in there somewhere. I don't know.
Oh, definitely on the recurve portion. I'm totally catching that.
Yeah. Yeah, fun stuff.
It's interesting. Some of those 80s and 90s knives really reflected on 60s cars.
Oh, yeah.
Had nothing to do with the 80s and 90s cars.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, fun episode, fellas. Interesting topic.
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna send you one thing that I thought of just now. I don't know why this popped in my head. Chris Bathgate. He's he does machining, CNC sculptures, but we're talking. I was thinking about that piece he did that was like a vase, for flowers, but it had knives on the sides of it. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's very much an oddity that I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot about that piece. And that's kind of a newer one. A lot of the stuff we talked about has been older pieces.
Right.
So I would hurt myself with that thing.
Oh yeah.
Hey, can you move that over here to the table?
Right.
And there goes all your fingers.
Right. The first time DeRay forgets and reaches in the cupboard to grab that baby, it's game over, buddy.
Yeah.
Tom's like, that was a $5,000 vase. What do you mean you threw it away? Yeah, his stuff is
Really
super cool. Very robo-organic.
Yeah, and he's kind of bled into the EDC type of community with some of his kind of smaller hand sculpture pieces, pocketable pieces.
Yep. Yeah, robo-organic is the only word I could come up with. I'm not sure how else to describe his stuff. The pieces other than the ones most knife people are familiar with, right? These look like...
Atomic, futuristic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't use what we think of as biomechanical.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Atomic,
very
futuristic,
original.
biomechanical. Robo.
Some organic.
Yeah.
Some of it's organic.
It is, yeah.
and just gorgeous outside the box stuff, man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Really fun.
Good episode, guys. This was fun, just kind of different.
This was a challenging one for me, I'll have to admit, but I did enjoy it.
You handled it like a champ.
We're working into spooky season.
Yeah, spooky season. Exactly.
It's coming around. We had to do something little funky.
Spooky.
Yep. All right. Well, we're right around 2 hours, I guess, by the time we get this edited for folks to listen to. So, fun episode. Like you mentioned earlier on, we'd really be interested to see people's choices in these same kind of categories. I'm sure the oddity thing is going to pull crazy stuff out of the woodwork that we didn't happen to come across, where somebody's got a piece that they saw and will want to share with us. Because we know there's lots of super nutty stuff out there. So please hit us with the Facebook group and share that stuff. We'd love to see it. Or tag us in Instagram. You know, that's always a fun thing. Every once in a while we get tagged on Instagram where somebody comes across something similar to what we talked about or in a style that we talked about in an episode, and they tag us in, and it's like, ooh, look at that. That's super cool.
Mm-hmm. Half the time I end up finding stuff I've never realized was out there.
Yeah.
And I've looked at a lot of shit.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing.
Doing the research for the show has definitely got that surf to the end of the internet kind of feeling.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I had so many picks for this one because I was like, shit, is it good enough?
They were
is
all
it
good.
the end all cool piece? There are so many that could have done it, could have been it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Definitely. All right. So kind of an interesting one for our 50th episode. Dr. Burch's Cabinet of Curiosities.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy that we've done 50 episodes.
It is a little surreal, ain't it?
It really is.
We're almost as old as Mark.
Stop. Come on, man.
That's rough.
Man, takes a swing in episode 50.
Nobody's listening to the end of this shit. We talking about.
Nobody listens to this show. Okay, so what else do we have to talk about? There's a guy named Chase Boatwright who had written us an email a long time ago, and Chase was kicking around this idea of putting together a map of knife makers. The idea, I'm pretty sure that most knife makers I know, when I say those words, map of knife makers, are like shuddering, right? Like, oh, fuck, I don't want someone coming to my shop or my house. And that's not the point. Chase was basically trying to say, hey, let's see where knife makers are. And it'd be really cool because new knife makers or collectors might realize that like Tom said, right? Gil Hibben might be in your backyard and you didn't even know.
Yeah, who knew?
Right, exactly. So the goal of Chase's map that he put together, it's a kind of like a Google Map-ish kind of thing, is to help you understand if there are cool knife makers in your own backyard. And that might lead to you wanting to buy pieces from them because they're nearby, or looking into their work and maybe you didn't even hear of them before. I'd certainly had that experience here in Michigan where there were makers that were, within an hour drive of me that I had no idea even made knives at all. So really, really cool idea. And we'll post the link in the Facebook group. There are a couple different versions of this same kind of thing. There's another one floating out there that I think has probably more people in Europe and areas outside the U.S., but Chase's has, I don't even know how many. I'm going to guess a few hundred U.S. makers, maybe, all scattered around, and you can look in different parts of the country and see where there are makers and maybe reach out to them if you're interested in seeing their work or trying to find out where you might see their stuff at a show or maybe even a local show. So fun idea.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Chase Boatwright, knife maker map. Another really cool thing that came up was knife maker Lee Lerman. Lee is someone that probably lots of our listeners are familiar with. He built some really beautiful knives, kind of very well known these days for his folding knives. Does lots of cool stuff, makes his own screws and tons of details. Very, very clean work. Lee's a really cool guy, and he's a Mark of the Maker listener. And he started a Facebook group that is called, what's it called, Michael?
Knife books?
Knife Books. Yeah. So
Pretty
Lee,
self-explanatory.
it pretty much is. Lee has an extensive, I think would be a safe way to describe it, an extensive library of knife books. And so we've talked on the show before about there are these soft cover books that would come out every year called the Knife Annual books or Knives Annual. And they came out from what, Michael, early 80s?
81.
Yeah. To when?
To now.
To now.
Yeah.
So
Did they miss a year?
No.
Here recent, there wasn't a year where there was a non-publish?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I know they had talked about doing away with it about, 3 years ago?
I don't know.
No. I mean, I'm in the back office, so I can't see my books, but I'm pretty sure I have all of them.
Okay. Well, I know that somebody had told me they had talked to Kurtzman, and he said that Blade was going to discontinue doing them, but then I guess they got a reprieve.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
What you guys want to describe what those books are? They're reference books basically, or kind of snapshots in time, I guess is a better way to say it.
Yeah.
But there's articles and stuff too. It's not just a bunch of pictures, although there are extensive photos in there.
Yeah, it starts with 5 to 7 articles at the beginning, and then it goes straight into just page after page of knife porn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They go through knife trends. They have an engraving section or a, fixed blade. The middle 80s had like all the survival knives being made at the time. It's just, it's a very nice snapshot of the time.
Yeah.
And great reference material. A lot of them were in black and white until it was pretty late till they started doing color, but they're still fantastic. You'll find such amazing, interesting pieces in there.
Well, and one of the real big reasons why I would get it is because you had all your suppliers in the back, all your knife makers alphabetized, and then by state. And,
Right.
There was, as a reference, they were really good. And like they said, lots of great ideas and articles.
Yeah, almost an almanac sort of feel to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and And from the time that it started was very much in the pre-internet era, right?
Oh, yeah.
When it mattered to be able to like, oh, here's a knife maker that I really like. How do I even find their stuff? How can I find out if I can order one or buy one?
It says like kind of what they make, and also it had their contact info,
Exactly.
prices.
So you can send them a letter or make a phone call, stuff that people nobody does anymore. Right. But yeah, so reference stuff. So anyway, this Facebook group that Lee Lerman started, Knife Books, books like these Knives Annual are in there, but also it's people sharing their book collections, and it sometimes kind of spurs ideas, right? Like in our early episode where Tom talked about a couple of books, and then that turned into a bunch of people going to try to find these books and buy them and stuff as good references, which we still use to this day on the show, right? When we're looking up stuff for episodes. And so there are some really, really cool and somewhat obscure books that get shared in this group that Lee started. So it's a really fun place if you want to learn more about knife history, or potentially find yourself some great resources to go out and look for, if you start to build or extend your own knife reference catalog. And some of the books are literally artwork of their own, right?
Yeah.
These Darren books
Yes.
are fantastic, beautiful pictures. There's a number of other ones that have just extensive, beautiful photography in addition to having fantastic knives.
Well, a lot of the books are actually they're getting pretty pricey too. I mean,
Some are. Some you can find. Now, the Knives Annual stuff, you'd be surprised how cheap you can find some of
Right.
those. I went through and filled a couple gaps recently, and I got them pretty dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And if you're a nerd, if you're still listening at this point, that group's probably for you. That's
If you could sit through 2 hours of knife dork fantasy knife talk,
then you might need to get
these
in
are
there
your
and
people.
get some books.
Yeah.
And now on that topic, one of our listeners, and now, man, I'm probably going to butcher his name, sir. I am sorry. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I believe it is Zhao Kui,
Yeah.
Xiaocui. He sent me a link to a place called, I think it's Powell's Book Heaven.
Whoa, hey.
And
You're not giving out
no.
secret sources, are you?
it ain't a secret now. But the website is www.powells.com, and man, they've got some knife books. If you know the title of the book you're looking for, pretty good chance you're going to find it.
Very cool.
Yeah, great resource, and thank you, sir, for turning me on to it. My bank account don't thank you, but that's neither this way nor that.
So I think Lee's vision for the group is, one, show some reference books that you think people might find interesting. And I think he's also very open to the idea of buying and selling stuff. So if you have books that that you're looking for, it's a good spot to say, hey, I'm trying to find this book. And if you come across one, please let me know. Or there are people that have been in there selling books and other stuff. So
Oh yeah, I made out on the good end of that.
Sometimes there are good deals in there.
Yeah, Mark made sure I got hooked up with the Darren Folding Knives book and an extra copy of the David Bowie knife making book at a stellar price.
Yes.
And thank you for that.
Oh yeah. The Darren books are very expensive if you buy them new. So being able to get them at a reasonable price is a very cool opportunity.
But they're worth whatever price you can get it at. I mean, they're just extraordinarily well done.
Yeah, they are.
I loved buying those every year at Blade.
Yeah. Does David not come to Blade now? Or they're limited and he just doesn't have them?
I don't think he's done a book in 3 or 4 years.
Okay. I know he's done other books as well, maybe on travel and other stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he's done a knife book in a while, and I haven't seen him at Blade for at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay. But he has books on other related stuff too, right? Like engraving and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it, man. A couple cool things we want to throw on the end there. Especially 2 things. One, if you made it this far in the episode, high five, congratulations. This is a hard one to listen to because you can't see the photos. We will share them with you, we promise. But we know sometimes these picks episodes are sometimes difficult to listen to. But hopefully you can nerd out along with us. And for those of you that are familiar with some of these makers, I'm sure you can visualize what some of these pieces are. Maybe you've even seen them before. And also for everybody that's actually listened to all the way through the catalog, and we know there are at least a few people out there that have, thanks for sticking with us for 50 episodes. That's pretty damn cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
All right. So as always, thank you to our Patreon supporters. Please follow us on Instagram at Mark of the Maker, and join our Facebook group. You just search Mark of the Maker on Facebook and boom, we should come straight up. And we'd love to have you join us there. Our guests join us there. Grace is with us now, having conversation on all kinds of fun stuff. Nick Rossi's in there. Lots of folks that have been on the show with us join in and participate. So it's a really fun place to chat and look at some cool things and maybe have a couple laughs along the way.
Now, hold on.
Whoa.
We mentioned Nick Rossi.
Yeah.
Michael got an oddity himself from Mr. Rossi this week, did he not?
I was trying to figure out how to worm that in there somehow.
Boom, there you go, man. I set you up. That's on a T. Hit that motherfucker.
Yeah, man. He made an integral folded titanium slip joint, I guess is the only way to say it. I don't know what really he calls it.
It's
got
working
a
off a back spring. I mean,
yeah, it's got a back spring made of titanium. It's it hits a lot of stuff for me. It's kind of funky. It's made by a friend. I don't know. It's a cool piece.
And the blade shape's righteous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a gorgeous blade.
Yeah, it's a very fun piece. I was pretty excited when I got the message that he had one for sale. It's pretty cool.
It is very cool. So, like you said, the handle, in spite of the fact that it's, well, not in spite of, the fact is, like you said, integral. So it's a folded integral, which I know hits personal notes with you.
Oh,
and the back spring is also integral.
yeah.
Which,
So so you basically have like folded outward. You'd have, two flaps and a long piece that you would have to fold inward and bring that big spring around to fit your, the back of your blade.
like a beautiful Nick Rossi butterfly, if it were unfolded. So yeah, really, really cool piece. It actually makes me think, like the Man Bun GTC. It's got that same folded mechanics thing going on that Gus has happening, right? But Gus is like off on the Euros mega clean, I don't know, complexity tip, and
He's a spicy GTC.
yes,
with a hammer.
extra spicy. Yes.
Oh my.
The apron wearing version of GTC. So, Nick Rossi.
Gus is a Porsche, Nick's a Buick Riviera.
Yes. Yes. With wide whites on it.
Wide.
So Nick is the original friend of the show, our very first guest who joined us. And I think where the term was coined, thanks to Sean, in our Nick Rossi episode, the original Mark of the Maker friend of the show. So high five, Nick. Beautiful work. Definitely colored me jealous on that one because that's a really, really cool piece, Michael.
Yes, it is.
I'm proud to have that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and thanks for sticking with us for 50 ridiculous episodes that we can never believe anyone makes it to the end of. And here's to 50 more.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine on the web at crineknives.net, in his Facebook group, Crine Knives, or in his Instagram account, @Crine Knives. For Michael Burch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram @BirchTreeBlades. For myself and the Raygun Bead Project, we're on the web at raygundivision.com. We have a Facebook group called Raygun Division, or my personal Instagram @msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or some discussion about the show itself, you can find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram @markofthemaker. Last but not least, the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. Thanks for listening.